The movie begins by introducing Max, a junior lawyer, as he heads to a cafe for a meeting with his team. Before the meeting starts, he receives a video call from his wife, Sue, and their daughter, Nancy. They miss him because he's been busy with work and hasn't been able to come home for a month. Inside the cafe where Max is about to have his meeting, another group of people is also gathered for their own discussion. Ellis, the leader of this group, arrives to start their meeting. During Max's meeting, he notices his younger brother, Jerry, who seems to be engaged in an important discussion. When Max greets Jerry, his younger brother tries to distance himself, as if he doesn't want to acknowledge their relationship. This surprises Max because Jerry often visits him at his apartment. Jerry asks Max not to disturb him any further, leaving Max puzzled about Jerry's behavior, especially since they are close. Later, Jerry lies to his group, claiming that he doesn't know Max well, merely mentioning that Max gave him his business card some time ago. Roxy, a member of Ellis's group, approaches Max and asks for his business card, saying she might need legal help in the future. On that night, Max was occupied with his work, and he couldn't go back home. He had to stay in the office to finish his tasks. His wife, Sue, understood that Max had been working hard lately. While Max was still at the office, trying to meet his deadlines, Sue heard the doorbell ring. It was Jerry, Max's younger brother. Sue and their daughter, Nancy, were delighted to see Jerry, but their happiness turned into shock when they saw that Jerry was covered in wounds. Suddenly, a stranger appeared and tragically shot Jerry right in front of Max's wife and daughter. The following morning, Max was in the middle of a client meeting when Detective Santiago and his team arrived to deliver the devastating news about Jerry's death, Sue's murder, and Nancy's disappearance. Max, overwhelmed with grief and panic, interrupted his meeting and followed Santiago to the police station to gather more information about his family. At the police station, Max was questioned by the authorities. He wore a look of sadness and anger due to the loss of his family. The police had not yet identified the culprits behind the horrific crimes. Santiago, empathizing with Max's situation, met with the junior lawyer and pledged to help him find those responsible for the murders and Nancy's abduction. On another occasion, Max was escorted back to his apartment by a female detective named Vargas. As he entered his apartment, Max was met with a scene of chaos and bloodstains. He couldn't help but shed tears when he saw a picture Nancy had drawn. Suddenly, a man named Dio, who was one of the killers, tried to silence Max and demanded that he stay quiet. After a struggle, Max managed to break free from Dio's grip. Surprisingly, Dio had no intention of harming Max. Instead, he revealed that Jerry, Max's younger brother, was an aspiring police officer who had been killed after being discovered while infiltrating a criminal gang. Dio also handed Max a key to Jerry's secret warehouse, where Max could find information about Ellis, the mastermind behind his family's murder. Upon hearing this shocking information, Max rushed out of the apartment through the back door, heading towards Jerry's secret warehouse. Detective Vargas, who had become suspicious when Max didn't leave the apartment, decided to follow him. When she arrived at Max's apartment, Vargas didn't find Max but encountered Dio instead. She shot him because he had aided Max's escape. Injured, Dio then detonated a grenade he had prepared earlier, causing an explosion that destroyed Max's apartment and killed them both. Meanwhile, Max had reached Jerry's secret warehouse near the harbor. Inside, he discovered various items belonging to Jerry and evidence of his involvement in a human organ trafficking syndicate led by Ellis. Max was shocked to learn about Jerry's criminal activities, particularly how he had stolen money from the organ sales and hidden it in the warehouse. Fueled by anger and a desire for revenge against Ellis, who had taken away his entire family, Max decided to take matters into his own hands. He crafted several throwing knives, which he planned to use in his mission for revenge, starting that very night. On the other side, Ellis and his gang held a secret meeting where he ordered his men to disperse and abduct more children for organ harvesting. They still needed more organs to sell, even though they had already kidnapped Max's daughter. In a fit of frustration over the money Jerry had hidden, Ellis took out his anger by torturing a man to death. His henchmen, accustomed to such brutality, stood by without intervening. After the meeting concluded, Ellis and his crew prepared to leave. However, when they reached the parking lot, one of Ellis's henchmen, Mike, discovered a flat tire on his motorcycle, which was secretly sabotaged by Max. Ellis offered to give Mike a ride home and instructed another henchman, Tommy, to take Mike's motorcycle to a repair shop. Tommy followed orders but stopped to urinate in the middle of the road, where Max, driving a car, ambushed him with a throwing knife he had prepared earlier. Max also attacked another henchman with a machete, killing him. On a different day, Ellis became increasingly frustrated over the money Jerry had hidden, with no leads to find it. Shortly after, some of Ellis's henchmen brought in a man named Ray, who had willingly come to meet Ellis, lured by the promise of money quickly. Ray, brimming with confidence about becoming wealthy, behaved arrogantly, even putting his feet up on the table, which annoyed Ellis. Ellis grabbed a cleaning cloth and a piece of plastic, spreading them out in front of Ray. Meanwhile, Roxy retrieved a sharp object from a box brought in by a man in a yellow shirt and used it to kill Ray. After Ray's death, his body was placed on the plastic, and Ellis's henchmen immediately prepared to harvest his organs. On a different day, Max found himself behind a car driven by one of Ellis's henchmen named Juan. Frustration welled up within Juan as Max was driving slowly in front of him. After several impatient horn honks, Max finally stopped his car on a quiet street. Irritated, Max maneuvered his car beside Juan's. He attacked Juan through the open car window with a throwing knife. Max didn't care about the pedestrians who witnessed his actions and ruthlessly struck Juan, ensuring his target was dead. He also took Juan's phone. The following day, Max returned to Jerry's warehouse to store Juan's car and track Ellis's location using Juan's phone. Max set up a trap in the warehouse for Ellis's henchmen, who would come looking for Juan. Then he went alone to Ellis's headquarters, pointing a gun at Ellis and demanding information about Nancy's whereabouts. Ellis refused to cooperate, and Junior, one of Ellis's henchmen, secretly attacked Max from behind, causing the lawyer to lose consciousness. When Max woke up, he was tied up, and Junior, the guard, was heating a wire to torture Max by piercing his finger. Junior revealed that he had been involved with Sue before killing her. Max endured the pain and anger, unable to move his bound body. Shortly after, Ellis and his right-hand man, Big John, arrived to stop Junior's torture. Ellis wanted Max alive to extract information about the money Jerry had hidden. After gathering the vital information, Ellis swiftly took Big John and Roxy with him to head for Jerry's warehouse. Meanwhile, Junior received orders to guard the headquarters, ensuring Max couldn't escape. Later, while Junior was dozing off, Santiago, who had been lurking nearby, emerged and pointed a gun at Junior's head. He then brought him into the room where Max was held captive. Max, now free, made Santiago faint to prevent the detective from interfering with his plan to confront Junior. Simultaneously, Big John and Roxy were already at Jerry's warehouse, searching for the hidden money. Eventually, Big John discovered the cash in a bag hidden within a box. He seemed delighted by the find, but Roxy began to suspect something was amiss when she noticed the bag of money was connected to a long wire linked to a grenade. She attempted to warn her partner, but before she could utter a word, Big John pulled the bag, triggering an explosion within the warehouse. Meanwhile, Ellis, who was waiting in the car, was taken aback as Jerry's warehouse suddenly went up in flames. Max's plan had succeeded in eliminating Ellis's top two henchmen. Back at Ellis's headquarters, a now conscious Santiago found himself inside a car. Inside the headquarters, Junior appeared lifeless, tied to a chair with his abdomen exposed. Ellis, upon discovering this, started to panic, realizing he had underestimated Max. As Max led Ellis to an old factory, intentionally luring him, the confrontation intensified. As Ellis arrived at the building, Max was ready to confront the boss of a dangerous human organ trafficking gang with his gun. But Santiago showed up just in time and urged Max to trust the authorities to investigate his family's murder instead. Max, however, refused to listen to Santiago and held onto his desire for revenge. Santiago then brought up Max's past as a former Marine and his decision to become a lawyer because he had witnessed injustices, especially the cover-up of his mother's abuse by her commanding officer. Santiago tried to convince Max to reconsider his plan for revenge. Max fell silent, carefully considering Santiago's words. The detective now wanted to apprehend Ellis. However, Santiago suddenly changed his mind and decided not to handcuff Ellis. He saw Max as someone who had lost his family because of the mafia's actions, just like himself. So, Santiago left, allowing Max to go after the criminal boss for revenge. Without hesitation, Max attacked Ellis, who claimed that Nancy had been killed after her organs were taken and sold to different countries. Although Ellis resisted, Max eventually overpowered him. To satisfy his thirst for revenge, Max picked up a spiked baseball bat and used it to fatally beat Ellis. A few days later, the news about Ellis's body being found in a factory had spread to various news outlets, including television. Even the chief of police knew about it. Santiago wanted to help Max cover up what he had done, so he suggested that Max leave the country for a while. In the movie's final scene, Santiago returned to his hometown in Mexico to spend time with his family. But then he got a sudden message from Max, who had become a hitman to seek justice. Max asked for information about the criminals he wanted to take down. Santiago was excited to help and gave Max the names of the criminals still on the run and where to find them. Moral lesson from the story: when life throws knives at you, don't throw them back, and always trust the detective who knows the difference between justice and revenge.